My name is Ken White, and I am the president of the Maryland Black Chamber of Commerce. And we thank you and welcome you for attending this, our fifth session in our series of doing business with the state. This year, the Black Chamber of Commerce, we embarked on a hefty load. We did government contracting, and we had a 6-part series with doing business with the federal government, 5-part series doing business with the state, 3-part series doing business with Montgomery County, 3-part series doing business with Montgomery County, Prince George's and Montgomery County. And so this is the last of all of our government contracting for 2023. But do stay tuned. We are going to be organizing our government contracting affinity group. So stay tuned, more to come with that. We should have that up and going by the beginning of September, and be on the lookout. And with no further ado, I want to thank Eduardo Hayden with the Governor's Office of Small Business Affairs for helping us put together this series. And Eduardo, I'll hand it over to you guys, and then I'll just come back in at the end for some closing remarks.
All righty, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Ken. Thank you once again to the Maryland Black Chamber of Commerce for having us and for working together with us to help put this together. As he mentioned, this is the last one of our pieces. So if you have not attended all of them, just, I guess, reach out to Ken, and I believe we have, and if we haven't, you let me know, made available any of these, the material for these classes, so that people can always catch up if they haven't. We've covered everything from the very beginning, the small business reserve to certification in the MBE, subcontracting in the MBE. And then now I think we're doing this one, right? The veteran. And if I missed one, I apologize. So today we're going to talk about the veteran small business enterprise program, or the veteran owned. And then we have a special guest that will come in, and she will talk about that, our compliance manager. I'll get to that in a second. Before we get going, I just want to let people know, and I do this all the time, but I just now thought of it. If you guys have this activated or not, the closed captioning, Ken, and I guess Melissa can let us know if you guys have access to that. If not, then I apologize. This is customary for the platform that we use. We usually have it so that we can activate closed captioning, but now that I think about it,
I'm going to defer to Melissa because I have no idea. Melissa, do we have this capability?
If not, I apologize for bringing it. It was just, it's customary for when we do it on our platform with Zoom, but this may not be the same version. So in either case, I apologize for that.
She's saying yes, they're on our YouTube channel getting it now.
Okay. All right. So sorry about that. I just came to mind as I did this here. All right. So what I want to do now then, real quick, to not belabor anything else here, is I want to welcome Ms. Danielle Davis. As I mentioned, she is our veteran-owned small business enterprise compliance manager. I will let her introduce herself further. She will discuss this particular programs and all of the particulars that come with it. And then we will curate questions. So submit those through the chat function for everybody today. I'll curate as many of those, and then we're going to try to address as many of them at the end in a Q&A session. So just keep that in mind. Send in those questions. I'll keep track of them, and then I'll present them at the end in a Q&A session. With that, Danielle, welcome, and thank you for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Good morning, and thank you so much for this opportunity. It's always a pleasure to speak about a little bit about what we do, how we help the small business community. As Eduardo said, I am Danielle Davis. I am Maryland's first veteran-owned small business compliance manager, and My father and grandfather are proud Army veterans, and my uncle is a Vietnam vet. So for me, I am a strong military advocate, and it is my passion to build a community around our veteran-owned small business enterprises for the state of Maryland. So enough about me. We need to get the show on the road. So today we will go over what our office does, just a little bit of an overview, even though this is centered on the VSBE program, and we will talk in depth about the VSBE program. We'll also just do a brief snapshot of the other two programs as well. Small Business 101, Procurement 101, data mining techniques, and we'll give you some up and coming resources and events. And we'll also provide and make available this presentation. So who are we? What do we do? And how can we help our small business community? So we are the Governor's Office of Small Minority and Women Business Affairs. We'll also put veterans up in that as well. So we, as a coordinating office with the executive department, connect the small business community to greater economic opportunities in both public and private sectors, while implementing and monitoring the three socioeconomic programs we oversee, which are the MBE, Minority Business Enterprise, the Small Business Reserve Program, and our VSBE program. And we ensure this compliance over 70 plus state agencies and departments across the state of Maryland. And in doing so, we are a hub of information as we maintain a statewide website of resources. We'll go over a few of those a little later. So if you're not familiar with our website, we've put it here on the screen. We'll definitely give you screenshots and walk through some things, but we want you to bookmark it, that you want to become very familiar with our website. So let's talk about those three programs I just stated. So the first and the oldest of all three of the programs we oversee is the Minority Business Enterprise, or fondly known as MBE. This is mainly a subcontracting program with a 29% aspirational goal across the state agencies. This is race and gender specific. This application process is handled with the Office of Minority Business Enterprise under the unit of Maryland Department of Transportation, which holds the official database for all of the MBEs. And all three of these programs know that they do require an annual renewal and have their own renewal processes. On to the Small Business Reserve, or SBR program. This is a prime contracting program with a 15+% set aside. This is race and gender neutral, and it is defined by the small business eligibility standards. We'll get into those application processes. And last but not least is the program I oversee, the Veteran-Owned Small Business Enterprise. This is primarily a subcontracting program, although both the MBE and VSBE can be both prime and subcontracting programs with a statewide 1% minimal goal. This has a 3-step certification process that we will get heavy into. And the platforms in which hold the certification processes, which is called EMMA. And note that all qualifying contracts with state funding are reviewed for these 3 socioeconomic procurement programs. So let's talk a little bit about what this looks like in the grand scheme of things, because a lot of people don't necessarily know to buy into a program unless they've understood the years that it's taken to have these programs, the amount of vendors, and the money, the dollar amount associated with these programs, because we definitely want you to understand that this is worth your while. So starting with the MBE program, we have over 7,500 certified MBE firms in this directory. In the last fiscal year 2022, they awarded over 1.6 billion with a B in awards, and they paid out in payments over 1 billion in payments. Over 1,346 firms received these payments as MBEs in just the last fiscal year alone. So that tells you right there, there is a lot of taxpayers' dollars that are going into these state-funded contracts, and we want you to get a piece of that pie. Just a snapshot for the SBR program, they have over 3,750 certified firms in their directory and database. They paid in payments, they made over 432 million, and over 1,370 firms, businesses received payments. And then for VSBE, we are the newest of the three programs, but we are strong and mighty. We have over 625 certified firms in our database, and that is growing daily. And we hope to add you to that as well. Last year, in the last fiscal year alone, we made over 52 million in awards, and of that, 35 million was in payments. So know that there is it is not a requirement for you to be certified in these programs for you to do business with the state of Maryland. Rather, think of these certifications as tools in your tool belt, or if you're a sports fan, think of these as an assist. And we want you to get certified in as many of these programs that you qualify for. So just a brief snapshot. I know we've done presentations on the others, but just very briefly, we're going to go, like I said, the Office of Minority Business Enterprise, which is housed within the Maryland Department of Transportation, handles this certification process. The MBE is the oldest of the three programs, celebrating its 45th anniversary this year with helping minority businesses. So just so you are aware, this certification process has 4 steps, which includes an application, an investigation, an evaluation, and a determination. If you want more information, the website is on the screen. And for the Small Business Reserve program, this is the program that has the shortest certification processing time. Literally, our SBR program is a same-day certification, with over 20% of all open solicitations are designated to certified SBR firms. So if you want more information on this program and you weren't in the previous trainings, make sure to click on the link. It will take you to our website. It's about 15 questions for the SBR application in the Emma portal, which we'll talk about in a second. And literally, once you hit submit, it tells you whether or not you were approved or denied. So definitely look into that program if you are interested. So what I want to know is, for the people that are on the call, are you a certified state of Maryland veteran-owned business? If not, let me tell you more about the program I oversee. And with this being the last of the 4-part series, I wanted to shed some light throughout this entire presentation on why this particular program is so important. Did you know that Maryland is home to over 50,000, yes, comma, 000, veteran-owned small businesses that generate more than 20 million in sales each year and employing thousands, including veterans. So when veterans employing veterans, it's so important for our economy. And so if you didn't know that, we want to stress the word certified in these next couple slides and on this screen. There is only one place system of record that holds the certification process for our VSBE program. And we're going to go over what that looks like and where to go and all of that good stuff. So the VSBE program provides contracting opportunities on qualified state-funded procurements. You can, as a prime, as a sub, on work orders, task orders. It's so many different of various arenas that you can get involved as a VSBE. Note that only the work of a certified VSBE firm performing either directly as a prime contractor or indirectly as a subcontractor can be counted towards the statewide goals. So know that maintaining your certification once you get certified is key for this program. We also do not differentiate service disabled from veteran-owned as the federal government does. So if you qualify for this program, and we'll go over those eligibility requirements in the next slide, know that you are not treated any differently at the state level as a veteran. So today's magic number that I want you all to remember throughout this presentation is the number 3. Everything we will discuss today will come in threes. So let's first start with the 3 eligibility requirements for the VSBE program. So the first eligibility requirement is to be considered a small business defined by the U.S. Small Business Administration. The second eligibility requirement is that the business must be owned, at least 51% owned and controlled by one or more individuals who are a veteran. And the third is that the business must be for profit. And for this program, a veteran is defined as an individual who is verified as having served on active duty in the armed forces other than for training and was discharged or released under conditions other than dishonorable. So if you answered yes to those 3 questions and you're not in our program, then let me tell you how to get certified, which is a 3-step process, now completely online and digital, handled in our Maryland Marketplace Advantage, or EMMA for short, online procurement portal. We're going to go over these 3 steps, so don't have to write them down. So just note that the first step is vendor registration in the Maryland Marketplace Advantage, or EMMA. The second step is a veteran verification component that is required. And there are 2 different paths for this. We either have a state path with the Maryland Department of Veteran Affairs, or we also accept a federal path, which is through the SBA's Federal Vet Cert program. And then the third step is actually completing the VSBE application in EMMA, answering those questions that we just discussed in the previous slide. So let me show you how this works. You should at least set aside about 30 minutes to complete this entire 3-step process. The great thing about this process is that certification for the VSBE only takes about 2 to 3 business days in its entirety. So I do want to point out that Emma, as you can see on the screenshot on their screen, it is the very first, on the right-hand side, the very first tab says New Vendor Register Now. And the web address to go to Emma to complete this is Emma, EMMA.Maryland, spelled out, .gov. You'll click on this New Vendor Register Now if you are already not a vendor, and you can note that if you encounter any issues, Emma has a help desk email address that you can also email, or you can contact myself in addition. Also note, I did want to note one thing, that if you do have multiple veteran businesses or businesses in general, because this also holds platform for Small Business Reserve, that you must register each business individually with a separate email address. So when you click on new vendor, it's going to ask you a lot of information. Don't be scared. It's asking you information about your company. Some of the most common errors that we see start with this vendor profile registration, because the first thing that they see is legal name, and they want to put the business owner's legal name, when it's not asking that. It's asking about the company and all of the company's information. So today we wanted to review just a few of the top 3 registration tips, and give you just a little bit more insight so that you don't make the same or some of these other mistakes. So note that when it is asking a legal name, the next questions it's asking about the company name or the doing business as. It's important to note that the doing business as company name is what is going to show up on your profile and in the public database. So just wanted to highlight those 2 things. You want to make sure that you import or input all the important fields, even if there is not an asterisk or it is required. Such things like a website, because we want to be able to confirm the validity of your company, but note that all of this information that you put in your vendor registration is public. So it's important that this information is right, so other people, procurement officers, opportunities can search you. Another thing that we see is that the corporate contacts information, email, and phone number appear in the vendor search as well. So it is important to make sure that those informations are entered accurately. So just to sum up those 3 tips, making sure you're completing your vendor registration in its entirety, and because we want to show you what pulls up on the back or on the front end side. Oh, well, before that, we want to add one more thing about the vendor registration, is that it's going to ask you vendor declarations. And there are many benefits to adding these vendor declarations in your Emma profile. You are not locked in to just these vendor declarations and these vendor codes, which are under the United Nations Standard Product and Service Codes. Now, some people may be familiar with the federal NACE codes that only verify a business to the scope of that one, or that one code. Here in Emma, we want you to cast a wide net as long as the business can handle that net. So you want to put as many down as possible that your website and that your capability statement says that you do. But know that you can always interchange those. You can add, because different procurement officers code things differently when they're putting solicitations out. And so note that you want to put as many on your profile as possible. It's also going to ask you, what specific areas do you want to service? Do you want to service the entire state of Maryland, or do you want to service specific counties? You have that ability to update your profile and to add these things to this. The second benefit is that when new solicitations are posted and into Emma, if those declarations match the ones on the solicitation and the ones that are in your account, it will automatically send you an email to review that solicitation to determine if you want to bid on that. So once again, it's kind of doing the matching and the searching for you, which is an added benefit of getting information at your fingertips that you don't even have to look for. All right. One more thing about your vendor registration is the roles. Make sure, because this is a public site, and when they are trying to contact people, and maybe it's about payment, maybe it's about an opportunity, you want to make sure that you're assigning those roles so that those people in those roles can receive the right information. So if I'm sending out a recertification email, I want to make sure that I'm contacting the admin so that they know the email is coming from me and it's important. So please make sure when you are setting up your contact information that those members are active and you're not just putting in dummy or inaccurate email addresses. You want to make sure that this information is getting to the right people. You do not want to miss opportunities. All right, so once you've done all of that in your registration, I keep talking about this public vendor portal. So when you are registered and complete step 1 of this process, you want to make sure that your business information has the website, if you have one, your contact phone number, and your contact email. And then once you're approved and verified and certified in the program, you will also obtain a VSBE certification number, and it will also tell you when your application will expire. And this is important for all parties, internal and external stakeholders. And you want to make sure that you're checking this information as well. Note that all certifications are only good for 1 year. And if you will have 30 days prior to the expiration date of your application to complete the recertification in Emma. And you don't want to expire, because if your account turns to expired, you will lose the VSBE certification number that was assigned to your business. They'll have to award you a new number, which could complicate some things on paperwork. And note that no new awards or payments can be counted towards the statewide VSBE goal if you do not maintain your certification. So after you have done all of that, that's why I said you need about 30 minutes to complete this. You're going to move on to step 2. Step 2 is the veteran verification component, which I stated earlier are 2 different options. The first option is with the Maryland Department of Veteran Affairs by completing this fillable PDF document located on our website. And we're only asking you to complete Section A of the name of the veteran or the business owner, the address, the company information, or the legal name of the business, and the applicant's relationship to that business. That's it. It should only take you about 5 minutes. You'll save it to your computer and you'll upload this into step 3 with acceptable veteran supporting documentation, which could be a copy of your DD 214. If you have multiple pages, you want to make sure that you're getting that member 4 page that has that discharge information on it, or the DD 214, or discharge papers, or we'll even take a copy of the Veterans Affairs rating decision letter. So you have some options. That's all if you want to complete the Maryland Department of Veteran Affairs verification. Or you can enter and go through the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA's Veteran Small Business Certification program and process. Now, I've heard that this takes a little bit longer, other than our 2 to 3 day business window. So if you're interested, not just doing state contracting, if you're interested in the future for doing federal contracting, this may be an avenue that you want to explore. And if you get certified through the vet cert, all we ask on your application is then for you to provide your business SAMS UEI number, which is 12 digits. It's replacing or has replaced the DUNS number for those that are that know the difference. And note that with the SAMS UEI number, we don't want the one that is attached to the person. We need the one that, and can only verify the one that is attached to the business. So step 3 is just answering in your Emma profile, back in Emma, those 3 questions of eligibility. If you're 51%, owned and operated by a veteran, do you meet the size standards of a small business? Are you for profit? And telling us what veteran verification type you will use, either the Maryland path or the federal path. And if you choose the Maryland path, an additional box will pop up for you to upload documents. And if you choose the federal path, it will ask you to put in your 12-digit SAMS UEI number. It's that easy. And processing the application alerts come to me, and then we go from there. Now, if you want a more step-by-step guide for both the certification and recertification processes, we do have a quick reference guide that walks you literally step by step that is available to you as well. So we're going to segue into Small Business 101. And the reason being is we want to make sure that you know that 99.5% of all businesses in Maryland are small businesses. So according to the SBA, Maryland is home to nearly 620,000 small businesses and employ 49% of the state's workforce. Not only is our office a wealth of information for small businesses, but we want to make sure that you know what is required to do business with the state of Maryland. So here goes this number 3 again. We are going to go over 3 major small business resources that we think you should know and have in your back pocket. The first of them is the Maryland Business Express. If you are not familiar with Maryland Business Express, I behoove you to make an account. This is the starting point of where to access all of Maryland's information, from planning your business, from the startup process, through the actual going through getting, your EIN and getting everything certified with the state of Maryland for your business to operate, then managing your business, And then the last stage of growing your business. So no matter what stage you are in, the Maryland Business Express has resources to help you through each step and stage of the process. And if you don't already have a website, business cards, business plan, capability statement, doing your market research, this is also a good place to go to start, because it will help navigate to some other things that you need to put in place to be a successful. We want you not just to be a small business, but we want you to be a successful small Maryland business. The second resource that we want to go over is the Maryland Department of Assessments and Taxation, or SDAT for short. And the reason why we go over this is because in order to do business and to do, whether it's prime or subcontracting, you have to be what is called in good standing. Now, Emma is our procurement to pay portal. So if you're not in good standings, they won't be able to pay you for your work. So note that SDAT has a checklist for new businesses, helpful resources for new and existing businesses. So you want to really make sure that you have all of your T's crossed and I's dotted so that you can do business with the state. So we talked about good standing, and I really want to hit this nail on the head, that a business that is not in good standing cannot be in compliance with one or more Maryland laws that apply to businesses and their responsibility to the state. So there are a lot of different ways that businesses fall out of good standing, and it's easy using those websites that we're giving you for you to understand if you have fallen out of good standings, whether it be tax related or other things, this is a great site for you to go in, search your business, and it will tell you. This is also public information as well. So note that when you're building relationships and other businesses may want to search you, they have that ability. And so do the state officers. So just note that you have all of these tools and resources at your fingertips. And note that we are also here to assist you as well. One of the last, or of the third resource that we want to provide and tell you about today is the Maryland Apex Accelerators, which is formerly known as PTAC. And there is a lot of people and resources, like we said, out here to help you. Their mission is to provide businesses with understanding of the requirements of both government contracting and state contracting, and the market know how to obtain and be successful to perform in the federal, state, and local government entities. They also support with counseling services. They have training services, and you are assigned a counselor and or a mentor in this program. So if you want more information, or if you're not familiar with what is called now Apex, definitely use the link and the information we've provided, because it is a great benefit to learning terminology. The first thing that I came into state contracting, and it was alphabet soup. So all of these acronyms that most veterans and military people are already know acronyms. This is a whole nother ball game of acronyms to get to familiarize yourself with, so that you're speaking the language, that you're understanding what is needed when you are getting into this state contracting arena. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about procurement. So we're going to give you the basics of Procurement 101 as it relates to the state of Maryland. And this is so important because there is a difference between federal government, and some people are used to how things are done on the federal government level. Well, we want to make sure that you know how to do things, once again, with the state of Maryland. And even from state to state, they are can be a little bit different. So first, let's start out with the basic definition of procurement. So what is procurement? It is the purchasing or otherwise obtaining any supplies, services, or construction, including descriptions of requirements, selection and solicitation of, should say, resources, preparation and award of contract in all phases of contract administration. Now, with the state of Maryland, there are primarily two different procurement methods. You have the invitation for bid, and you have the request for proposal. Note that late submissions are never, ever, 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 ever accepted. So the invitation for bid is where the state agencies or departments are seeking a price. The solicitation is typically a straightforward and very well defined in the scope of work it's asking for, commonly used to purchase supplies, capital equipment, or construction work, and typically not used for complex purchases. Note that the award is based on the minimal qualifications and price. So price is a heavy undertaking when determining the invitation for bid. Now, you have the other, which is request for proposal, which is seeking a solution. This is designed to help the contracting officer understand the various proposal methods and approaches that can be used to meet the requirements on the solicitation or the scope of work that's outlined. This is generally a multi-step process and commonly used for more complex purchases. And the award is based more on the technical competency of those processes and price. So note the difference, because you want to know that information when you are reviewing both of those on those platforms. And we'll get to where those are posted in a minute. The next thing that we want you to know about procurement levels and categories, that there are 4, and the differences between those 4. The first 2 are categories 1 and 2 that fall under still a small procurement, but it is defined by a dollar. Well, all of them are defined by a dollar amount, but the first 2 are most common. Then you have category 3, which is also considered a small procurement, but defined by a certain dollar category range. And then you have a formal procurement, which is anything over $50,000. So let's break those down one by one so that you understand what is required of each category and the different method. So we have on the screen a direct solicitation method, and that's very important for you to note. A direct solicitation method is meaning that these are not publicly posted on Emma. So anything under $15,000 is not required to be publicly posted. So this is a chance for smaller businesses to use this direct solicitation method to obtain, 1 or 2 different contracts on lower levels. So category 1 is anything less than $5,000. And you can use oral, written, or published solicitation to obtain quotes. It is encouraged to direct solicit these quotes specifically with our MBE, SBR, and small, minority, and veteran-owned businesses. And this award is based on the procurement officer's judgment. Well, how would you know what the judgment is if you do not or don't put yourself out there? And we'll talk about how to do that a little bit later. But it is note that these two direct solicitation methods and categories are so important in the small business arena, because it is up to the business to reach out to the state agencies to make those connections for their needs and their wants. Category 2 is anything $5,001 to $15,000. Same requirements. And note that once again, it is the business owner or vendor's responsibility to reach out to the state agencies and departments to build those small procurement relationships. Now let's go over categories 3 and the formal. So categories $3 amount is $15,000 and $1 to $50,000. Now these are under the bid and proposal solicitation methods. It is required by law that all procurements over $15,000 must be publicly listed in EMMA. EMMA is what we said, our procurement to pay system, our portal. So EMMA will become one of your best friends in this entire state of Maryland process. So for categories 3, small procurement, a written solicitation is required. They must at least get 2 valid quotes, and the award generally goes to the lowest or best responsible and responsive bid or offer. You also want to make sure that you have all of the required documents, and we'll go over that a little later. Please make sure that you have all of the documents that are required when completing this bid. On to the formal procurement. This is anything $50,000 and above. Also, a written solicitation is required in EMMA, must be published. Same thing, you at least get 2 valid quotes, same process. So let's talk a little bit about what it looks like if you're in and wanting to do these categories. What your responsibility is either as a prime or a subcontractor when it comes to doing the work on a contract, or when bidding or performing. So the responsibilities of a prime contractor when bidding is that you must comply with all of the project's subcontracting requirements, must read and follow the bid instructions to the T, attend the pre-bid and proposal meetings, which allow you to ask questions in those pre-bid meetings, and you'll gain a lot of information in those meetings. Conduct your VSBE outreach efforts early to cast that broad net that we talked about. So that's how another component of EMMA is used, is because the VSBE database is held in EMMA. So you'll use EMMA and that public vendor search that we talked about to cast that broad net. You'll keep records of all outreach activities. You'll complete the required VSBE paperwork correctly. We'll give you a little bit of those documents in the next few slides. And we want to do that because failure to do so will eliminate you altogether from consideration. You don't want all of that hard time and work that you put into those documents and that bidding to go to waste or go to the wayside. Note that please do not assume anything. Ask questions until you are sure. There is no penalty for asking those questions. Do not wait until the last minute to ask those questions. Sometimes we get calls here, even though we are not involved in live bids, we'll get questions. There's a solicitation out on the street and it closes tomorrow or closes later on this afternoon, and we have questions. Please don't wait till the last minute. We know you are very busy as a small business owner, but time management is key when being a prime contractor. Note that late bids will never be accepted, and document. I can't say this enough, document all of your processes. Also, one rule of thumb, VSBEs can perform as a prime contract. They may fulfill up to the maximum of a 50% overall, both MBE on an MBE participation goal if they're both MBE and VSBE. So note that there's also additional benefits for being in both MBE and VSBE programs. So if you decide that prime contracting is where you want to start, note that there are so many hats to wear and multitasking is involved, especially as a small business owner. And sometimes those roles fall on just a few people. So when performing as a prime, make sure to identify the primary point of contact for all subcontractors, and that they are reliable. I'll put that little tidbit of information in there. Comply with the VSBE subcontractor requirements. Submit the monthly payment forms throughout the life of the contract. You want to make sure A, that you're getting paid, and B, that that the state agency or they comply with the payment regulations that are set in stone. If you have any issues, we have liaisons in every participating VSBE agency and department. So if you have any problems that arise, please make sure to reach out to them and do what you said you are going to do. The biggest thing in prime contracting is building your brand and building, your performance. And so you don't want to mess that up. And because it could mess up additional and future opportunities. So let's say you decide, maybe prime contracting is a little too much. Maybe you want to focus on subcontracting. All right, well, here's what you need to know. When bidding specifically, you want to know your customer. You want to make sure that the niche that you offer as a small business is exactly what that prime or is outlined in those subcontracting duties. Try to respond to all requests from quotes from prime contractors. We're growing our database, our diverse database daily. So you want to make sure that you're responding to those requests so that it puts yourself out there as well, allows you to get more visibility. Document all correspondence. Once again, I'm going to say document up until the time of bid, making sure that you have all of the correct name, dates, contact information, all of that good stuff. Don't submit quotes in a vacuum. Know pretty much, everything that is going to be entailed in that scope of work, the timeline, and all that is going to be asked of you. And everything is billable. Never sign any blank VSBE forms. You want to make sure that you have all of the contact information, and you don't want to just sign anything and it go arbitrarily out into the universe. Keep copies of everything you sign. Follow up on all quotes. Know the expected work schedule. And once again, do what you say you are going to do. Now, if you're deciding when you're performing as a sub, you want to make sure that you introduce yourself to the VSBE liaison at the agency, build that rapport that we talked about, identify your primary point of contact with the prime contractor, know when, what, to the T, who, what, when, where, why, what is going to be expected of you to complete that job, that task, that scope of the work that you signed off on. Submit the monthly payment forms. Once again, do what you say you're going to do. So we've talked about these forms and not signing off on any forms. And we wanted to make sure that you all know where to find those forms and what a little bit of what these forms look like. Now, we updated these VSBE forms last year. So we want to make sure, A, you have the updated version of the forms and that you're using those. And B, we wanted to highlight payment is one of the biggest concerns that we end up hearing on our side, and we can only advocate for you, and the VSBE liaisons can only advocate for our VSBEs if they have completed everything that they need to do when it comes to forms. So want to go over these forms just a little bit. Won't harp on this long. So for those that are not aware, it is the attachment E, the VSBE forms, the VSBE utilization affidavit, and prime subcontracting participation schedule. This comprises of about 17 different forms and documents and definitions, everything you need to know in order for you to be named on as a VSBE on a contract. Also, two things that we wanted to highlight was the attachment E-3 and the E-5, which is the VSBE subcontractor participation statement, which requires the prime contractor to sign off on and the subcontractor to sign off on, clearly defining the work that will be performed. And once again, want to make sure that you know only the work of a certified Maryland VSBE. So you can be certified with the federal government, you could be certified with Virginia, all of these other states. But in order to do the work here in Maryland, you must be a certified VSBE to get that goal. If you do not have a VSBE certification number and are not certified in our program, you will not be able to be counted for those goals. We specifically ask on all of the documents now, what is your VSBE certification number? We will not accept anything else. No DUNS number, no SAMCBI, only your VSBE certification number. Also, the E5, the VSBE participation subcontractor paid and unpaid invoice report. This is what we're talking about, and making sure that you've completed this information, tracking what you have done on what solicitation, what is the all of the ins and the outs, invoice, the date, so that you can get paid. Once again, there's payment that is required for your work. So you want to make sure you do everything in decency and in order. Now we're going to pivot a little bit to data mining techniques. We've talked about contracts and procurement. So we want to show you where to go and what the process is. Like we said earlier, we want to teach you how to fish. So we want you to know if you're ready to do the fishing, to catch these big fishes. And data mining is that process of sorting through large data sets to identify patterns for your business, build relationships that can help solve business problems through data analysts. And we want to give you these techniques on the state side so that you can predict future trends and make more informed decisions for your business. So once again, this magic number that we're going to talk about today is 3. We're going to go over 3 of our state contracting pipelines, which is EMA, the procurement forecast, and BPW. So just to give a brief overview before we get into some additional screenshots, EMA is used, and how you use another way to use EMA is to search past and present contracts, open solicitations for agency needs, length of contracts, contract information, and awardees. I'm going to show you that. We're also going to show you what the procurement forecast is and how to search in a fiscal year what the agencies will be soliciting for throughout the year. Allows businesses to plan ahead. And it also allows an Excel spreadsheet search so that you know and can keep and track that information for future use. And the BPW, which is the Board of Public Works. The Board of Public Works meets bi-weekly meetings that include the governor, the treasurer, and the comptroller to review procurements exceeding $200,000. We're going to provide you a lot of information in this next segment. So just know that our website is a deep dive and can go a little bit further on videos and slide decks that we offer, in addition to what we're going over to today. So if you are specifically want to take one of these step by step and start and stop these videos and presentations at your own leisure, definitely visit our website, where we have an entire section devoted to public mining data, or public data mining strategies. And we've also added a new one, which is communicating with confidence. So let's go over EMA in terms of a data mining strategy now. So there are 3 additional functions on EMA's homepage. You don't even need a login for this data mining tool that can assist vendors with finding out data on contracts, on open solicitations, and we talked about that vendor search. That can be for competitors, that can be for how you want to do business or partner with different businesses that may need what you have to offer. So let's teach you how to catch those big fishes. Remember to keep in mind that every procurement over $15,000 is required to be posted on EMA. So we're going to go over 3 different techniques of the public solicitations, of the public contracts, and the vendor search. So let's go over public solicitations first. So when you select public solicitations from the main EMA homepage, it will direct you to this open field, open search. It can allow you to search as keywords or categories. It will also allow a drop-down box for an advanced search where you can search just by VSBE goals or MBE goals or SBR goals. So note that EMA is continuously doing enhancements. They actually just released last week that they are expanding and improving this keyword search in cases where you don't even recall a full name, title, or identifier. It will still yield results easily or more easily using that keyword browsing and location section. Also, you can now browse and search with or without prefixes. It also will yield a wider search of results. So when you're searching for vendors, orders, projects, keywords, it will pretty much provide you with any and all information. Previously, it was not like that. So you all are coming right in at the tail end of some great enhancements. Also, this is the beginning of the fiscal year. So the fiscal year started for FY23 on July 1st and goes through June 30th. So this is the time where you'll start to see a lot more public solicitations because the renewed money and budget is here and they are working to obtain these contracts. So note that when you use these keyword and or checkbox searches, it will yield anything that is open currently with the close date. You can filter by that. If you click on the blue subtext or subheadings, it will tell you when it is published. It will tell you the main category. So, you know, your buzzwords, that's where it's going to pull from in your keyword search. What type of solicitation method, like we went over earlier, is it a request for proposal? Is it an invitation to bid? And it's going to tell you what agency has put the solicitation out on the street. You'll click on the blue link to get more information. And it will have contact information even for the procurement officer that put that solicitation out, if you and their contact information, agency information, and obviously all of that good information you need in order to complete the bid. The second technique that we're going to go over is the public contracts. So the public contracts are contracts that were previously and have been awarded already. You have access to this data. So the great thing about using this information is that you can see what contracts were previously awarded, what their cycle, the life of the contract is, whether it's a 1-year contract, 3-year contract, 5-year contract. It tells you who your competition is, what vendor received that contract, the title of the contract, the contract amount. Once again, procurement and agency information, and it will also tell you generally what type of VSBE goal was it or had on the contract. All good information, and I always tell our vendors when they're doing these data mining tips that we're providing you all of this information. It just takes a little bit of time, and don't bite off more than you can chew. Learn something new every month. Strive to cross something off of your to-do list. Add depth into what you do and how you can curate different opportunities. And this is all that we're doing, is providing you those different techniques to curate those opportunities. Note that you have email addresses on all of this information. So you have access to email. Hey, I do X, Y, and Z. I saw that a contract that you awarded last year was up. Do you still need any of these services? That is a direct solicitation method that may yield you, not a huge contract, but maybe just, oh, well, keep me on your Rolodex. I know I'm dating myself with a Rolodex, but keep me in your Rolodex if, something does come up that, my business can assist and complete for you, on a onesies or twosies scale. That's how you build one of the different methods of how you build performance, past performance. And then last but not least is this public vendor search that I keep talking about. Once again, you can search it by keyword, category, advanced search. If they're a VSBE vendor, if you'll heavily use this during the prime process, if you are searching for VSBE subcontractors, because the VSBE program is primarily a subcontracting program, and it gives them that all of this information, and it's open to the public. Note that ELMA is a lot of information, and there's always something to learn. Emma has their own vendor training channel. So if you are a little bit uncertain, or if you used to use it and you kind of, got fed up with it, and we welcome you back, because they're continuously making those enhancements, continuously allowing you to start and stop different processes, so that you have assistance. Once again, know that you have a team with you and here to help you. We know that you're not in this alone. All right, let's talk about the second data mining technique, which is the procurement forecast portal. We received a record number of forecasts from the different agencies already for fiscal year 24, with, as I stated earlier. So you would navigate from our homepage. There's different tabs, and it's the very last tab if you are familiar with our website, or you can just copy and paste the link. And this also has a search function. And once you can export those searches to an Excel spreadsheet, and it pretty much yields all of the keyword information and what quarter of quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, so that you can plan accordingly and be looking in Emma as well. It also provides the contact information for the different agency. Right, last but not least is the Board of Public Works. The Board of Public Works, we've already talked about, comprises of the governor, the treasurer, and the comptroller, and what they do in terms of reviewing state contracts exceeding over 200,000. The board operations are directly by the executive secretary, with the board procurement advisory and general counsel serving statutory duties and deadlines. So they have meetings that are public for you to hear about the big projects that are going on in the state of Maryland. It's also a way for you to determine and keep your ear to the streets of what's coming in the future on bigger projects. We know we're coming up against a little bit of time. We still have an amazing segment for you, which is called resources. We're going to go over a lot of these different resources, and we're only picking a few because there are so many out here. But I just want to highlight today those VSBE liaisons that we discussed, a little bit more on where to find things on our website, since we are that hub of resources, and some upcoming and ongoing things that we offer, such as our Ready, Set, Grow, our tips, trainings, events, outreach, and networking. All right, so once again, navigating from our homepage, you will see under top website picks that all 3 programs have listed the VSBE, MBE, and SBR liaisons. That contact information is readily available to you, and once again, you'll pretty much use this information in the direct solicitation methods. So if you offer, depending on what your business, service, and or product offerings are, you will target different of agencies that you want to market to. And this is a great way to do that, a starting point to do that. Also on our homepage, in the top right-hand corner, you'll see a little play icon. That is also our YouTube playlist channel that we will show you also. I just wanted to show, while we had this on the screen, how to navigate to it, which has all of our pre-recording trainings also as more information for you. All right, so when you click on the VSBE liaisons, this is just a snapshot of what it's in alphabetical order from the different participating agencies. It gives you the liaison's name. Their email address is always the best point of contact. Also provides you with a phone number. So once again, all of this information is accessible to you at your fingertips. All right. Oh, there goes that training recording slide. So I just wanted to highlight again where it is for you all. When I tell you the wealth of topics, the array, the variety of topics we have on these trainings is going to blow your socks off. So make sure to view that information. It is something that I send out in every welcome VSBE email because I really want to hit this nail on the head that there is so many different topics that encompasses small businesses and what we do and what we go through. And we bring in experts to talk about different topics that are really good information. We just had one yesterday. If I can just talk a little bit about the building a compelling capability statement by target.gov. And it's a big topic that I generally get always when talking to our VSBEs, and knowing that that is your business resume and that it needs to be up to date, and that you can have several different ones based upon who you're marketing to. So that will be out soon, but please make sure that you visit our video playlist. Also, our VSBE webpage is a wealth of information. Just like this presentation, I do presentations throughout the year with different organizations and resources. And I am very thankful for this chamber having us on, because the more information we can share about this community, just like in the military, you're building a camaraderie of brotherhood or sisterhood. It's the same thing in small business, in this small business state of Maryland mind, that there are so many different resources for our veteran entrepreneurs. We list just a sum on our website. On the right-hand side, and also previous webinar slide decks that you have access to as well, because we want to make sure that you have this information. Make sure to connect and be a part of some of the other things that we have coming up in the future, which I can't wait for our outreach manager, Eduardo, to go over in the next slide. So Eduardo, I'm going to ask you to come on back because you do so well in managing some of this up and coming information. And I really want you to share the excitement that I have about the upcoming things we have coming on.
All right, I'll do my best to provide as much as I can. So real quick, yes, so there's basically three platforms or avenues or events that we sort of engage in when it comes to doing outreach with the state of Maryland. The first one I'm going to discuss here is Ready, Set, Grow. This is a procurement connections workshop. And I want to mention that because, and put this on your date, save the date, September 14th this year, 9:30 a.m. at Live Casino and Hotel. We're doing our Ready, Set, Grow. That's our next one. What I'm doing here is I'm bringing actual state agencies. Currently, we have about 15 to 16 already confirmed. I'm hoping to have more. And they're going to come with information about contracts, anything that's current, anything in their pipeline. Who do you need to connect with directly with those agencies, those opportunities? And so it's a great way for you to personally and face-to-face meet someone at these state agencies. There'll be a little bit of a program aspect at the beginning. We'll have a special guest for that day. We'll probably honor a few businesses as well. at the front end of everything. And then we break away and really give you the last hour and a half to just network with the people that are in the room and to connect with these state agencies and resource partners. We usually also bring in some resource partners that you guys can work with. So that's the first one, Ready, Set, Grow. Again, put that on your save the date for September 14th at Live Casino and Hotel. You can go to the next one. Next slide. And then as Danielle was mentioning, right, our tips webinar series or training insights for procurement success. What we've done here, there's two basic tracks to these particular ones. We do this twice a month, usually the fourth Tuesday and fourth Thursday of every month, with the exceptions of November and December because of holidays. So we bring that up earlier in the month, but it's still going to be a Tuesday and Thursday. And what we're doing here is the first track is we do general business practices, best practices. So as you mentioned, the one we did yesterday as an example was, crafting a compelling capability statement from people who are experts in that space. So it's a great resource, great thing for you to sort of learn and figure out as you put together, as Danielle mentioned, basically your business resume. It's sort of your calling card. And so that's a great one. And that one will eventually, probably within a week, end up, the recording will end up so you can go through the whole thing if you want to do that. And then the one that is on Thursday, tomorrow, State Procurement 101. So quite of an expanded version of the little bits and pieces you might have seen today here at the end of this presentation. And that'll be, we'll go deeper into some of these things, processes, procedures, methods, what's going on with state procurement, what's, maybe even what's new or what's current with regards to that space. So that's what you're going to get with tips. It's always going to be some kind of best practices and then something more specific to doing business with the state. We go into each one of the programs. We cover things such as rights and responsibilities for our MBE contractors and subcontractors. The next one for next month, we'll be covering things like navigating EMA. So a little deeper dive into how to use EMA, and then another one that deals with, I want to say prime contracting in the small business reserve, right? So this is what we do, 2 tracks, best business practices, and then procurement related. That's tips. Again, no cost to attend. You just gotta, have the willingness to come in and sit with us for a couple hours online on Zoom, and then we put that out there for you guys. All righty. The other thing I want to mention as far as keeping up, obviously I'm talking about what we do, but we also do our best to try to capture as much of what we're seeing across the state of Maryland, multiple events by different organizations, different resource partners, and we try to put as many of those in our own calendar of events. So I want to encourage you to go to our website. On that first page, you just got to scroll down a little bit and you're going to see 3 tiles, one for Ready, Set, Grow, one for tips, and then the last one will say events. You want to hit that, and when you go there, you'll get to see what's going on, right? And so it's basically updated on a month-to-month basis, right? So if you go in there, you're going to see whatever's for the rest of this month, maybe some beginning stuff for August. By the end of the month, it'll be filled up with everything in August that we can find out. There's not everything because I can't capture all of it, but it's a good amount. So you get a decent understanding as to what kind of different trainings are going on across the state of Maryland. And a lot of them are free, by the way. So just keep that in mind. Some of them may be events where you have to purchase tickets and stuff, but you'll get to see what's out there.
And it's also important to note that some of them are in person and some of them are virtual. So you still have those options of, if you can't, attend somewhere in, Eastern Shore or Southern Maryland, that some of them are still virtual as well.
Yeah, it's a good combination. And so some of the other things that are important, and this one's coming up, this is August 5th. This is not ours, but this is an example of what we do where we try to pull what we're seeing across the state. and we try to bring it to you, is the Southern Maryland Minority Small Business Expo. You want to, even if you're typically not in that space, it's worth expanding your area. Where do you do business at? And tap into these kinds of events, right? Where you can go in there, whether you can sponsor the event itself, get a table if that's possible, or attend. But this is a perfect one that you want to do. This is August 5th. This is on a Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. I know Danielle works a lot with the Southern Maryland minority chambers in that area. They do a great job. We've worked with them plenty of times in the past, and they always do a great thing. As a matter of fact, they helped us at one point do one of the Ready, Set, Grows in that area, which was also great. So again, this is an example. The link will there when we share this, you can go to the link, go ahead and sign up for this. But I encourage you to get in touch with these type of events. Let's go to the next. And then here's just an example of what's upcoming from our perspective. Again, tomorrow, State Procurement 101, that is still open if you want to register. And then next month, Tuesday, August 22nd, Navigating eMaryland Marketplace. And as I mentioned, that Thursday, then Prime Contracting in the Small Business Reserve. There's another webinar. We do every other month a webinar, informational webinar series called Small Business Resource Connection. So what I do there is I invite a resource partner, and we ask them and give them basically 40 to 45 minutes plus a Q&A within that hour's time to just talk about what they do. This time around, we're going to have Department of Housing and Community Development, usually known to that acronym DHCD, and they're going to talk about their business lending programs. I know that doesn't sound like those go together, but it's Department of Housing, Community Development, but they have a business lending side. And it's a very, what's the word? It's a very healthy program, meaning that they have a lot of different ways to provide funding in different ways. They also provide monies to micro lenders and other partners who then also provide lending to you guys. So we're going to have someone come in and talk about all of that. It's an access to capital piece. And so please join us for that. I believe the registration is already open. So if you have not received it, I'll make sure to, before I send this out, I'll put a link on this so that you guys can link to the registration and move forward. And again, the September 14th in-person Ready, Set, Grow at Live Casino and Hotel. All right. And then just a final sort of word here on outreach, generally speaking. All of these events, you got to look at it as opportunities to reach out or connect with everyone. It's an aspect of outreach, right? Especially for the VSBE or veteran community, right? All of our participating agencies and departments by law are required to do outreach to the veteran small business community, right? So we do some things to bring them in to help them out as well, but just know that they are there for you to connect with. So you got to do your best to, again, update those capability statements, have an elevator pitch, and get certified so that you are prepared for opportunities when they come along, as opposed to, not having it and being asked, hey, can you participate? And you're like, well, I don't have my certification. So just keep that in mind. And then we'll include other partners and resources as a list. We'll add to this things such as, I wrote these down, so just give me a quick second. I want to make sure you get this, but Project Opportunity is an example, is an incredible partner you want to connect with. We'll provide those links for you. VBOC, which is the Veteran Business Outreach Center in the Mid-Atlantic region, specifically to the veteran community. Also with the Maryland Black Chamber of Commerce is another example of great partners that we work with. And then I want to mention lastly some networking opportunities that you want to connect with. So the Maryland Veteran Chamber of Commerce, if you're not familiar with them, they are now doing these empowering veteran events in collaboration with National Harbor at the Capitol Canopy. This is the second and fourth Fridays at 11 a.m. It's a great place for you to go, get inspired, get some education about what's going on in your space as a veteran, networking, and whatnot. For those of you who, of course, we thank you for your service and then have served our nation. So this is one of the ways in which that chamber is trying to give back as well. And then the last one is this first Friday VET Working, VET Vet Working event held by Uplift Leadership Consulting in Central Maryland. This is for Friday, August 4th. And they have two parts. They are in different locations. So I guess depending on where you're at, there's a lunch and learn from 12 to 2 at Cheesecake Factory in Columbia, Maryland. And then the Vet Working Social that's later that evening, 4:30 to 7:30 at Busboys and Poets in Columbia, Maryland as well. Again, great places. Use the QR code when you get this to get information for that first Friday Vet Working events, and you should get all your details there. All right, last one. I know, I'm sorry, it's a lot, but I want to make sure we get this in November 9th, in celebration, of course, of Veterans Day. Save the date for this. We're going to do a VSBE appreciation event, again, November 9th, 2023. This will be at Live Casino. In-person event, very important for you to, this is exclusively for the members of the VSBE program. So as a motivating factor, we're going to do, we have some, we can't really give everything away, but a very special guest that'll be with us at this event. So I urge you to please sign up for our VSBE program. It only takes you about 3 days to get through the entire process. You've got our VSBE compliance manager you can connect with, Danielle, and then she'll help you out with that. All right, sorry, I know I was trying to get it all in there, Ken. So, all right, I think that's it. Now it's just questions and stuff. So thank you very much. All right, go ahead, Ken.
So I'm going to answer questions. I saw you.
Yes,
kind of
yeah. I didn't know if you needed to
question.
chime in or anything before we get going on that or not. And if not, I'll go right into the questions.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll come after you.
All right, perfect. All right, so some of the questions I've written down, and if some more come in, we'll do our best to kind of get into that. Here's an interesting question, and it's more of a general, but Danielle, maybe you can sort of highlight how people can get more information about this particular thing, which is what industries do we see our VSBEs or our veteran companies getting contracts in? How can someone sort of identify that type of information?
That's a great question. So as there is a variety and a vast database from everything to mental health to now cannabis to IT, construction. So we don't limit any of the categories for state contracting, but we see there is a trend, and on our website under resources, there's actually a guide that says, I wish I could pull it up right now, but it is the most common categories across actually all 3 programs of what we're seeing vendors being awarded contracts and subcontracting opportunities. So it's definitely something that is on our website. It's a resource available to you. Definitely construction, IT are some of the biggest ones I'm seeing with our VSBE trends.
Okay. So here's one that's it's probably a little deeper into the procurement process and that the agencies are going to go through. Do your best, but from your perspective, from what you've seen, perhaps. So once someone responds to whether it's a proposal or a bid or what have you. Vendors always tell us that it does sometimes take a while before they get to the decision process. So can you describe a little bit, maybe what is that procurement process that the agencies are having to go through that may take them so long to get to a decision?
Well,
Just generally speaking from what you
yeah, that could be a variety of things. And yes, I've heard that as well. Sometimes they have to revise the scopes of work. Sometimes the procurement officers have to get additional, funding for scopes that weren't initially just a lot of things. It could be funding, it could be changeover, it could be we have had a new administration. So there are vamping up the processes, and it is definitely something that our governor is data driven and wants the best for these programs, as he was a small business owner and veteran himself. So not only does he support the program, our VSBE program, and all three of our programs, but they're always making and trying to make enhancements to make these processes easier and better, because we have come a long way, but we do have a ways to go. So we've heard that. It really just depends on the agency and or the department, what is going on and what the needs are of the contract, of the scope of, what's going on. So they can always reach out to the VSBE liaison once they get, if they are a VSBE or MBE or SBR, and that is a great question for them to answer, because it really just depends on each agency and department.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I know that sometimes we want, we want a quick answer to what seems like a very simple question. But the honest truth there is that there are so many moving parts per contract, per agency, depending on how complex the scope of work may be, what are all the things that are involved in that. And so sometimes, yes, it'll take a lot longer than we hope it would. But just keep that in mind, as you mentioned, the liaisons are who you want to connect with to sort of keep on top of any of that. If you're currently on something and you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm not hearing anything, reach out to the liaison specific to that agency that you're trying to get in contact with and try to see what you can do there. So, all right, here, let's go to a few other questions here, if you don't mind. Clarify real quick, if you can, because I know this sometimes will confuse people, but what's the difference, and I guess the application of both the NAICS codes and the UNSPSC codes that you mentioned? Can you just give some clarity about, well, what's the difference?
They're just used in two different arenas. The NAICS codes are generally on the federal side for federal contracting, and the state decided to more or less use the United Nations product and service codes. The codes are different, meaning they are different numerically. But the good thing about we in the presentation provided the website for the United Nations Product and Service Code website. So you can still go in, and even in Emma, you can use a keyword search and it will pull up a variety of different codes that match the keyword that they can select. So it really isn't necessarily so hard to match, from one description to another, especially once again, because we said, Emma, you want to cast a wide net. So if it's, printing services, it can be 5-10 different keyword matches in Emma that can match to one thing that you end up putting in the keyword search. So it is a difference. It just is just different in the different spaces. But Also, something that we learned yesterday, for the capability statements, it's good to include both federal and or the NACE and the UN, the United Nations Product and Service Codes too. So it does add a little bit more to your repertoire.
And to maybe just add to that a little bit, because I've had this question asked before with a reference. So when you go to get your certification for the MBE program, which we sort of did an overview, yes, they're going to use the NAICS codes and AICS codes for that. But when it comes to actually contracting, doing business with the state of Maryland, the system of EMA uses UN SBSC codes, right? So again, there are two coding systems really for the same purpose. One's being used for your certification at the state level. And then at the federal level, they use it for their contracting piece as well. And then we use the UN SBSC codes for the contracting aspect of it. So just keep that in mind. It's good that you know both of them. And then again, on that capability statement, the advice given to us by the experts is put both of them if they apply to what you're doing. So if you're doing business with the state of Maryland, it's to your benefit to use both that NAICS codes, which sort of helps you with identifying what maybe your certification was in. And then the UN SBSC codes, because we do use that. And if there's any federal dollars, let's just say, that are being used in a contract here in Maryland, then that NAICS, the NAICS codes is probably going to play a role in that as well. So anyway, using both is good. Not to confuse people more. There's a little bit of a difference there. Here's another one that someone asked. And it just goes to this one because we're talking about the codes, but you mentioned that the system in EMA refers to declarations. Just, I guess, connect that to the codes because I know it's related to that, but just explain that real quick.
Got you. So the section in EMA is, so under the profile, it is called qualifications. And the subsection under qualifications is called declarations, where you declare how you want to do business with the state, where you want to in terms of service area, and what commodity codes, which are those the United Nations Product and Service codes, are under the commodity codes, but it's all under the subsection of declarations.
Perfect. Here's one. So you talked a little bit there about the VSBE forms.
The participation forms.
Yes, and you went over where can people go get it, things like that. The question is there something similar also for both the MBE and SBR?
Yes. So the Office of State Procurement is the record. It holds the forms for MBE, SBR, and VSBE. So we can also provide that in the resources. We can put the Office of State Procurement vendor business side so that you all have access to all of those forms. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
And also a shameless plug, we do a great one of our MBE compliance managers, Nichelle Johnson, does a great job on MBE rights and responsibilities. And if you are interested in being an MBE, that is definitely a class that I would recommend, a training I would recommend you utilizing on our channel.
Perfect. So just, I guess, a little bit connected to the forms part. So you had a couple of forms that you highlighted for the VSBE part, but I guess the question there is, are there any forms for subcontractors that can help them fill out to protect them from potentially being defrauded by primes, or that helps to sort of close any gap with that kind of issue, if that makes sense?
So on the federal government side, I do believe it's called a subcontracting agreement. So in those 17 pages of the VSBE forms, yes, there are additional forms. We just highlighted a few, but there are additional forms that encompass the entire packet that are very similar.
Now for MBEs, just the subcontractors in general, any forms that they submit that sort of helps to, keep maybe the prime honest or accountable? Do you know if there's anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of outside of their forms. Their forms are very much more in detail and lengthy though. So I don't want to say no, but I just don't know the exact name of them in their slew of forms. They have way more than us.
Yeah, and I think and I'm thinking if I'm understanding the question correct enough, subcontractors are, and I think you kind of highlighted this, right? They're asked to submit a payment form monthly, whether you've gotten paid or not. So how does that work exactly? If you're not getting paid, do you just let it go and you don't submit until you actually have an invoice, or how does that work?
It definitely is based upon the agreement that is in place. So it just all depends on, it does need, you want to submit that for the work that you have done that month so that you can receive payment. If you did not do work that month, you can still notate that, like again, document. But you want to make sure that you're still putting that information on those forms because there is room for that on those forms.
Okay, all right. And then I know we're getting to the end here. There's one question, and so when it comes to contracts that come out, let's say a contract comes out as an example, and it has a particular set of goals.
A solicitation?
A solicitation, yes. As it comes out and it's got goals attached to it, whether they're VSBE or MBE in this case too, for anybody who may not be a VSBE, but let's say there's goals attached.
Yes.
Two companies feel like joining together is going to help them get that contract. How would those companies, let's say one company is the VSBE, the other one is different, as an MBE, but there's VSBE goals on a contract, but they find that if they team together, right, they can actually get that business. Any recommendations for people who want to make those arrangements where there are goals attached to a solicitation? That makes sense? I'm trying to.
It makes sense. And my short answer would be teaming is not a bad thing, but know who you are doing business with, making sure that they are, established and have all of their ducks in a row before you just decide to partner and team with just any old business because of what they say they can do. I don't want to necessarily give advice or recommendations on that process, just because we don't really go too far into that. But I would definitely just say, in terms of being cautious of who you decide to do business with, not just the state of Maryland, but other business owners.
Yeah, and then the reason why I want to highlight that question in a sort of way is be honest about your involvement with the state with regards to any contract that has goals on it. Right? So, if you are a veteran-owned company, but you're the one who can take the lead on something, And let's say you find that, okay, I need to maybe bring somebody else on, maybe not as a sub, but if we were to team together, well, to fulfill that VSBE goal, make sure you are the VSBE that's taking the lead here and that you have the capacity to do the work. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're being measured on is, are you capable of doing the work? Not, are you certified as a VSBE? That's the plus, right? So just be wary of those things, be cognizant of how you're going to approach things, but be also honest about how you approach any contract that may have goals on it. If it's the opposite, and let's say you've got MBE goals and you are a woman-owned business and you qualify and you're the one who can take the lead, but you find that teaming with someone will help, okay, then make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, for the right capacity that brings to bear in that contract so that it doesn't get fuzzy or, people think you're trying to just mess around with the system. So.
And I will add,
Yeah,
I will add that there are regulations. All three of these programs have statutes and state regulations of how they are to conduct business, how we are to process and compliance. So there are the procurement officers and the agencies are required by law to adhere to those statutes and those regulations. So there are some things that are defined in the example of having both a MBE and a VSBE on an equation when they end up going through, that process of putting goals on contracts and solicitations. So, and there's regulations and rules, just like policies and procedures, just like in every entity, government, military, there's policy, procedures, rules, and regulations. So these are all outlined in what we do. It's not just on a whim.
All right, so to just kind of leave it on that note, do your research. We always encourage people to take a look at COMAR, the regulations that sort of govern what is procurement in the state of Maryland. That's why we ask you to do those things, because it'll help you clarify any of those areas that may be a little bit fuzzy. And if it generates more questions, reach out to us and we'll do our best to sort of make sure you get a better answer for you. So I'll leave it at that. If you have any final words, Danielle, that's fine. If not, we'll hand it back over to Ken.
Yeah, no, my contact information is on the screen. I am a manager of one over this program, so email is the best way of contact. But we can also set up one-on-ones, virtual Google meetings, telephone meetings, if need be. So I'm here as a resource, and I'm one of your biggest advocates. And we look forward to you joining the program if you're not already a VSBE. Yes,
thank you guys very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Danielle. That was an excellent presentation. I can see both your knowledge and your passion. So thank you very much. And Eduardo, this whole series, thank you so much. This was a pleasant surprise. I had no idea all this wealth of information was there at the state level. So I look forward to partnering with you in the near future. And we're going to talk. So I want to figure out how to get some of your events on our calendar. So we'll talk offline so I can let my people know that you're doing all these great things statewide. I would be remiss if I did not thank our sponsors for our government series that we put together this year, Montgomery County and FSC First. I saw at some point both of them on the call today, so thank you. For those of you who are registered for this, you're probably getting all of our information because you registered, but we do have another webinar at 1 o'clock today presented by ADP, Human Capital Management. That's going to be a one hour webinar that's going to cover payroll and compliance and common challenges for an HR arena. And then tomorrow we have our Elevate Your Brand Marketing webinar at 4 o'clock. And we also have our monthly networking event in partnership with the Montgomery County Women's Business Center at their Shop Local location at 5 o'clock. We have a lot going on, so please stay tuned, and we look forward to bringing you some more valuable information in the very near future. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. If not, I'll take that as a job well done, and we'll see you later. Thanks.
Thank you.